Well, I think the Regina campus was caught up in the social activism of the 60s, in part because it was a brand new place. It was tabula rasa. And therefore, there was no well-established conservative tradition, which in some of the older universities was a counterbalance to kind of experimentation or social innovation that was taking place at the Regina campus. And you have to give the students a lot of credit for this. The students were really taking the lead in this. And I think it's partly the sort of the political heritage of the province, and this is the capital city, so the political heritage of the province would be very much felt here because of our history of the Depression and the need to build an economy that's based on resources that has some degree of stability to it. There has always been a particular political tradition here of trying to figure out solutions that will work, and not necessarily solutions that are applicable to central Canada or other parts of Canada. Medicare, as you know, was here, and that was 1962. So that's right in the midst of this. And students were debating Medicare. Like, they were having mock parliamentary debates, and they were talking about it. And actually, if you're talking about how the University of Regina came into existence, the students were in the lead for the campaign to have an independent university. They were actually ahead of the faculty in that respect, because there was a demonstration in March of 1964, and they marched to the legislature, and they had two issues. One was tuition fees. The tuition fees had gone up $50, so now they were about like $300 a year, which was considered way too high. And the second issue was autonomy for the Regina campus. So they were asking for that well ahead of any university body, because they felt that University of Regina could create its own destiny more successfully as an independent institution. Certainly Regina campus had the reputation for being the hotbed of this type of social activism. And in part that was deserved. I think it's maybe a little bit overstated, because there was a certain amount of social activism in Saskatoon as well. Like, I was a student there, so I remember it. But it wasn't as salient, it wasn't as prominent, it wasn't as well publicized as it was here on the Regina campus. And partly was the Carillon, which was a very good newspaper, a very good student newspaper, one of the best in the country. And so it attracted a lot of attention. The Globe and Mail used to pick up articles from the Carillon. It took the lead on the Aboriginal issue. It was ahead of the Leader Post on stories having to do with the position of Indian and Métis people in Saskatchewan. It did high-quality investigative journalism. So there is no doubt that there is a difference between Regina and Saskatoon in terms of the mood of the 60s. But I don't want to make it black and white. I think that both places had a certain amount of this social activism. But Regina, because of the fact that it was a brand new place, and it wasn't anchored by professional faculties of long standing. Like, if you look at the universities across the country in the 60s, the most socially active ones, the most activist ones, were not the older, well-established ones, because they had an inherent built-in conservatism to their history. So it's not surprising at all that on a brand new campus, a brand new student body, you'd find a little bit more of this openness to change than you would find in a longer established place. There was always in the university, though, a mixture. It wasn't all radical. There was always a tension between the more conservative and the more adventurous elements within the university. So it's an oversimplification to say that this was just a hotbed of 60s radicalism and that's all. It wasn't just one thing or the other.